Got it.
You want me to do the story?
Sure. Okay. Where is it? Oh, what's this? Where are we?
There.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hello
Messing around with technology.
again.
We'll get it.
We'll get it. So welcome back to First Memory and Sakaso collaboration live event.
Aether.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm. So today we are, our topic is finding our way.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And by making good decisions,
Yeah.
healthy decisions.
Yeah.
That's our focus. So yeah, where we want to start?
Well,
Making
I mean,
good decisions.
the connection
Healthy
between,
decisions.
what's the connection between making decisions and health, right? So we make like 35,000 decisions every single day, right?
Oh, probably more. That those numbers probably from 10 years ago. Now we have like a social media. Do I click like or not?
Yeah.
Give it heart, right? Those counts.
Yeah,
And it's like a way more.
Yeah, 35,001 now. So, no, just kidding.
But, yeah. So many decisions.
So yeah, so what's the connection? I mean, just for example, if we're deciding that we're going to self-isolate, for example, for whatever reason, then we stay home. Well, that leads to, if you do that for long term, as we have seen, that leads to relationship difficulties. We're not relating to people as the way naturally, and
relating
or
to
as
people
much.
too much. Isolating with same people.
Same. Oh yeah, yeah.
All
In the same
time,
house. Yeah,
right?
yeah. Cabin fever.
Everybody goes through that.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're cut off from so many other people and you're like too tight with people that you'd rather get a break from, kind of thing. Yeah. But I mean, those things that can lead to depression, right? Either way, those things can lead to depression, and depression directly affects your health in so many ways. Mental health by definition, but also your physical health too, right? So that's
just one example.
That's just one example. There's so many, but we don't need to go into them all. But I mean, there's so much information out there. The last 2 episodes we did was on intuition. Check those out. Those are great episodes that dive into how you can use your intuition. The reason why we're going into all this stuff, making good decisions, is because we're flooded with information every single day out there. And what's the right information? What's good information? We're getting it from our friends, from the internet, from news, from wherever, right? And so much of it is contradictory. And the stakes are so high, right? Our health is at issue here directly. So how do we make good decisions in our lives in order to navigate through life on a day-to-day basis, engage with the world, navigate through just ordinary decisions in life from moment to moment? You know, do I decide to get angry right now, right? I'm dealing with that one right now. Right, I'm working through things that help me respond to situations where I don't get angry, right? Instead, I choose something else, right? I'm not repressing it like I used to. So that's another decision, right? So these kind of things, the decisions that we make, are critical for our overall health in so many ways. And having good information to base that on. So what is it out there? This guy says one thing, this other person says another thing, and they're very passionate, and the stakes are so high, right? So what do? Our approach, our recommendation that we've gone through in these last episodes is to just work on your intuition. Go with what is feeling right, not comfortable, not what feels comfortable because it's convenient or goes along with necessarily with somebody else's opinion, but what feels right because you're actually, I would say, because you're holding space for other people with your decision, right? That's one way to look at it, right? One way to define it. But that's how I would say is a healthy way to start making decisions is using your intuition and feeling what feels right about the stuff that we see out there. So yeah, so we can go from there, and we can talk about maybe things that are leading to good decision making. And
Okay.
yeah,
I'm curious, Paul. You mentioned a minute ago in terms of having a choice over the emotions that we feel. So I'm assuming that you believe that emotion, that we do have a choice for how we react to events. And I'm just curious if you could elaborate.
That's a very interesting question. Thank you for asking that, Alex, because it's not a simple one. It's not a simple situation. To quite a degree, we have choices about what we do. We have choice about whether or not we're going to get up and walk across the room, right? We have a choice about how we're going to respond to somebody, whether we're going to use this word or that word, right? But a lot of stuff is actually subconscious, right? So anything to do with past trauma, for example, and I myself, you know, an example, recovering with PTSD, when you are responding, when you're in trauma, there's a lot less that you have choices about than you think in a given situation. You respond automatically.
And then that's subconscious.
Subconscious,
right? And then when it's subconscious, because it's subconscious, you're not aware of, right? You think you're thinking and making a good choice.
You think it's the other person's fault, for example.
But the subconsciously, you are, subconscious is, it's thread detector, right? Because subconscious, the biggest job is to protect yourself, keeping you safe, and anything that could be a thread. Is that the thread? Is that the thread? So that's what it's working all the time, 24/7.
Exactly.
Right? And then, so if you have subconscious and then there's some like a scar from the past that, oh, I don't want that pain again. So I'm going to watch out for any kind of stuff, right? And then that's running underneath without you knowing it, and it affects all the decisions that you make, because subconscious is controlling 95% of what we all do, right? So if we're making 35,000 decisions or plus, and then it's pretty much like subconscious mind, and if you have fear in subconscious, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I guess the decision making starts to happen, like, so your emotions are triggered, and for a minute there you're out of control from your emotions, but we do have a choice at some point to say, do I want to escalate this, or maybe work on getting the emotions out before deciding what to do? I think is the key. I think that would be super helpful in a situation like that to make
you're absolutely right, Desi. A lot of that probably would come in reflection afterwards. A lot of times, right? A lot of times we have situations that come upon us that are fast. Things evolve so quickly with that subconscious decision making that we end up in doing things that create the escalation that we didn't want, right?
Yeah.
And afterwards, we can think about it, and if we're being honest with ourselves, we can come to a realization, well, you know what? Maybe there's something going on here. I mean, I've worked on this for a long time. I can't seem to control my anger. Maybe there's something going on, right? So when you're in those kind of situations, that's a good place to be, because you have a greater understanding. You're aware that there's something going on. There are things you can do to change those subconscious programs. So there are a lot of different things. There's your program, there's our program, but there are practical things you can also do for yourself at home. We have lots of videos about that kind of stuff, or you can just watch them for free. There's a lot of different approaches to programming your subconscious mind.
Yeah, and I think that that's also in a big way where the practice of meditation comes in as well, because I mean, we can go deep and we can try to, reprogram our subconscious and heal our trauma to avoid those triggers. However, if the trigger is already there, the emotion is present, you're activated, it's kind of too late at that point. So I think that's, like I was saying, I think that the practice of meditation trains us to be able to not associate with the emotion that's it's happening. So we can take on that like witnessing state, to witness ourselves from, from a dissociated state as these emotions are arising, and not identify with them, but allow them to flow through us and allow them to, to be able to change our state without getting caught up in the whirlwind of the actual emotion. So it's something you can you can train yourself to get better at.
Mhm.
Well, you're absolutely right. And if you do have that awareness to begin with, you can do some other things. You can, if you have enough self-control, move yourself out of that situation, and then maybe do some exercise or something, right? Instead, to blow off that steam. You got a little worked up, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
And the meditation, you can do it regularly, right? But once we're kind of focusing on like a strong emotion right now, and you're making decision. But when you're in that situation right now, right, you're not gonna do meditate, right? So then the exercise that Alex was showing like a couple weeks ago, the box breathing, those kind of things.
Yeah.
When you're in there,
Yeah.
you can just start doing the breathing, right? And then it calms you down, and the blood running through so fast, and you're going like this, just breathing, it calms down, and then you have better chance to make healthier decisions instead of just flowing with that the emotion, and then you're just gonna go all the way, right? And you can slow down the flow, and then
box
So-
breathing, or it's also called tactical breathing, right? Combat breathing. Yeah. Those are good names.
breathing exercise.
Yeah.
So whether we're triggered or not, and we want to make good decisions, this all applies. So getting clear and just breathing. So even if we're not like stressed out, if we're trying to make a decision, we could breathe and still come up with a better decision because we're more patient and more present.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, breathing and then feel the love, right? That you are surrounded with love, not with fear. You can feel physically, you can feel fear, and visually you can see and you can hear other people's fear. But if you meditate and do the breathing, you can quiet down those fear, right? You might not know, you might not think that you have fear, but in subconscious it's different story, right? So just doing those regularly, and then it quiets down the fear in subconscious level, and then bring out the love, and then you can make decisions based on love instead of based on fear.
Yeah, and where you're going with that, it's there's so many different directions we can go with this conversation, but it's kind of, I think it would be helpful to touch on the fact that fear you may be feeling in a situation that may be connected to trauma, as we were saying earlier, can manifest in different ways. There's different masks that fear wears, and anger, sadness, things like that, depression, all anxiety, frustration, any of those are all masks of fear. And if you look at it under the covers of where that stuff is coming from, you can see that there is a chain of things that are going on. Those connections that we made coming from your subconscious mind. So, and there's two. I just wanted to say just very quickly. I don't want to spend a lot of time there, but there are two root causes for those kinds of things. One stemming from fear, and one's coming from love. So love has a lot of manifestations in the way it comes forward, compassion, understanding, things like that. Fear has a lot of manifestations the way it comes forward. So you can only be in one of those at a given time, which is kind of an interesting
Yeah, like same
Important
as
thing.
our body only can be in one of two states,
Yes.
right? It's protection state or healing growth state,
Yeah.
right? And you cannot be both. Like if you are chasing by a scary dog, right? You just thinking about running, you're not thinking about healing, or you're not thinking about having a good relationship. No, you just want to get away of this dog, right? And then once you got away, and then you can relax, and then you can start doing something, manifest what you want, love, feel relaxation, and start healing. But in this right now in this world, there's no that dogs keeps chasing us all the time, 24/7 from different angle, right? It might not be a dog, it might be your phone, a message, right? And then there's no
It's a message
break.
from your ex or something.
or,
That's pretty
even
scary.
just some random post,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
oh my God, so many people died already. Next could be me, kind of thing, right? And then so it's just, and then you are in the protection mode all the time.
Yeah.
If you're in protection mode, that's like a subconscious protecting you. This can be a threat, this can be a threat, this can be a threat. So everything can be a threat, and then you cannot make decisions, right? And then you are making decisions based on this might be a threat. So I go this way, just protection mode, not the healing, love base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's an interesting part. Is I was actually just talking to my friend Nicholas Bobing yesterday, and he does some he's involved with some research work over at Stanford, and we were talking about this fact, how the conscious mind and the way that we are actually interpreting the events play a huge role in how we are able to navigate through them, right? So when we talk about on your list, I see, meditation, which is more of a training tool, breathing exercises, amongst other things, are more like real-time tools, things that we use in the moment, to get us to quiet down. And then you're dealing with fear or worry. So let's just focus on that for a minute. Like fear, is actually, from a physiological perspective, no different than what we would consider excitement. It's the same physiological responses in the body. So and it's all happening at a deeper part of the brain than the frontal cortex, but by engaging consciously in framing that situation in such a way, we can actually have a big effect in being able to calm our body, right? So for instance, if we are, I don't know, let's just say that we're on an airplane and we start to hit turbulence, right? And it starts to get really scary. We have an option at that point. Like, our body's freaking out and you're pumping adrenaline and you're getting really hyped up. You have a choice of framing that event as, this is something really scary. Oh my God, we could die. Or, this is exciting. Oh my God, this is like, this is really exciting. Same thing before, if you're gonna, like, before giving a public talk or something, you can freak out and say, oh my God, I'm really worried, or I'm very excited to be doing that. And that simple reframing can have a profound effect on how our body is actually processing that event. It's pretty interesting. And there's many studies to that show that this is fact.
Interesting. So there's something to be said for being able to shift from the fear to the excitement, huh?
For sure.
Yeah, it might not be easy to do that right away. For the first time, I'm feeling fear, and let's turn this into excitement, right? But then again, you can practice.
Yeah.
And then it's self-talk too, right? I'm in fear, I'm scared, and then you're telling yourself and reinforcing the feeling, fear, and it just gonna get bigger. But if you are slowly switching it to off, this is excitement. This is excitement. So you're hypnotizing yourself, kind of thing, and then eventually it will work, right? Not maybe first time you might not be like yeah, but it could happen, but might not happen. But yeah, it's worth doing it because, like you said, it's proven, right? And then that means you can do it. So yeah. That's, I don't know how to write that on here, but yeah, I'll think about it. So we're talking about more like a really big, scary fear, like a fear and a strong emotion, and then that could you could make a bad decision, unhealthy decisions. But just regular basis, even if you don't feel emotionally strong, like a strong emotion, anger or frustration, you're just doing, yeah, I'm doing okay, and I'm making just decision, I'm calm, but still, still you're making healthy decision, right? Yeah. So that
there's tons of stuff that we do in that space, right? Yeah,
like 35,000 times a day you're making decision. It's just like when you're gonna get up, you're gonna hit snooze or not, right? Starting from that, and then what you wear, right? Which route you're gonna take, right? Everything, but and then those things that you're not paying attention and you're doing it on a subconscious level, that's great. Subconscious moves our body, right? And use our mind, and we don't have to put so much effort to drive and to brush your teeth. It's just automatic, right? But it adds up, and then we are making decisions. And if subconscious is in protection mode, without us knowing it, you are always making unhealthy decisions, right?
If we're stuck in protection mode, yeah. There's nothing wrong with being in protection mode in those moments that you need it. It's a real thing going on, but when you're stuck there, that's very unhealthy.
You need to be in protection mode if you're chased by a dog. Yes, of course. You don't want to just stand there and get beaten, right? But no, So I want to, this one will help meditation and breathing exercise regularly. It calms your mind and stay centered. Is there anything that you guys can think of? Just regular day basis and making what would help us making healthy decisions.
I think being compassionate, making that choice. In other words, so you're driving, right? You're on your way to work, and somebody pulls in front of you a little bit on the highway, right? And you got to hit the brake, right? Suddenly, well, what happened there? If it's natural to be somewhat judgmental in many cases about that kind of thing. It's like, hey, that not very nice person cut in front of me. What business he got? And you're kind of making the assumption that he's not considerate of you and doesn't care about your safety, that kind of thing. Well, maybe he just didn't see you. Maybe there's a good reason why he didn't see you, right? Maybe, you never know what's going on there from the other person, what's going on in their lives. Maybe they're in an emergency and they're trying, that you always see in those old TV shows. I'm driving my wife to the hospital, right? she's going to have a baby, right? Maybe there's a pregnant woman on board. Who knows, right? So if you're holding yourself in that space of compassion and don't make the assumption that it's something negative going on, then you're leaving space for that person to do whatever they're doing without turning it into a thing, right? You're not setting yourself up for this with that person. You're allowing them space to do their thing, and you're, just taking it at face value, right?
Mhm.
So I think holding space of compassion when you're receiving information, you're allowing, you're giving people that space. You're holding space for them.
Well, you make it sound easy, Paul, but that's a very difficult thing that oftentimes requires a lot of internal work, to be able
It does. Yeah.
a lot of healing and just reflection to be able to arrive at that place of compassion. That's actually one of the biggest goals in the spiritual path, right? Is to be able to center our lives at any given moment from the heart, and we're constantly modulating in and out of it. So it's not an easy skill to have.
Mhm.
ASS.
Right. So yeah, I have, probably everybody have those moments, like driving and somebody cut you in, and then, oh, right, that was dangerous. And then yes, fear comes in, and that was dangerous. I could have died there. He could have hit me, kind of thing, right? And then that's protection mode can be activated. But what I do when I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't good, right? And I can feel that I get frustrated, or I could get angry. When I sense that, I do like, it's not turning into excitement, like Alex said, but it's more like I turn curiosity mode, right? And then I just kind of force myself, okay, be curious, like letting go of the assumption that he was saying. Why he's in a hurry so much, right? Just bring up some why and curious feeling in front, and then why? Maybe he's really upset because he's in trouble with his work or something. And as soon as I'm starting, and I'm kind of making up a story for that person, right? And then, but it helps me to stay calm, right? Just a random story of maybe he got big fight with his wife and just so angry and he can't see, right? And then it can bring the compassion out. Like the first step for me, I don't go straight in there, but being curious, right? And why, instead of right? I just practicing. It's still a practice for me. I practice to be curious. Why he's so mad, right? Why he's so frustrated, right? Instead of like taking all in. That's and then you creating your big emotion. That's what I do whenever I can do. I do that.
It's actually really a good thing to do, because you might want to put being curious, stay curious or something here. Because when you stay curious about what someone else is doing, what you see them doing, then you're staying light. Right? Your energy isn't got. If you're being curious, your energy is staying light. If you're being, if you're looking at them with a harsh eye, if you're being a little bit judgmental or making assumptions and coming to conclusions about that person, your energy is getting very heavy with that. So it definitely keeps you on a productive course by staying curious. And you taught me that, right?
Because he gets frustrated.
Yeah.
And mad at me. So be curious.
And I was judgmental to the way you were making videos. When early days when we were making videos, I had wanted things to be done a certain way because there were certain things that I liked and certain style I didn't like, right? And just fonts, right? Just using different fonts. So there's too many fonts on a page, too many different like styles, like italics and bold and Arial and Courier mix.
Yeah,
It's like it makes me a little bit crazy. That just does, right? It's just a pet peeve of mine. But you were like being pretty free with using different kinds of fonts and styles and colors and stuff like that. And I wanted to be more consistent, more because I find that to be calm, right? I find it to be kind of making me go a little haywire if there's too much going on at once. So I was being judgmental towards your work, and that was not helpful in us working together, right? It turned you off, and for good reason, right? Perfectly good reason. But you taught me at that point to stay curious about why you made the decisions that you make when you're editing, because you're doing the editing on the videos.
Instead of he's like, he tells me,
Yeah.
no, don't do this,
Yeah.
don't do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And can you ask me why I'm doing this
Yeah.
first,
Yeah.
and understand why I'm doing this first, then tell me what you think, right? You skipping that and then telling me, no, I don't like it, do this way. Okay, it's all yours, you take it, I'm walking away, right? So yes, but making decisions.
Yeah. So once I learned that, then everything was cool.
But anything else from you guys? We're talking too much here.
What do you guys think?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Decisions are just hard to make. I think after so long, I mean, especially after like we were researching headlamps the other day, and like it was so stressful because it's so complicated. There's so many different nuances. And by the time, it probably took a couple of hours, but by the time we got done with it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm just spent. And so any other question that was asked to me, I was just like, I can't answer. I can't think. Like, I'm just decision fatigued is what they call it. So,
well, this is true. This is a thing. It is called decision fatigue, and we all experience it. And it's another term that I've heard used is spoon theory, where they say that basically we have a limited number of spoons that we can serve every day, right? And then we run out of spoons, and at some point the brain just gets tired. And the only way to reset it is through non-sleep deep rest or sleep. So it is important to kind of prioritize the decisions, because it doesn't matter if we're like freaking out about what to put on or making an important life decision. To the brain, it's the same. It's still a decision. So try to automate, and this is something that you see a lot in very successful people, is that they automate their lives as much as possible. They wear the same thing every day, or they go through the same routines to try to reserve their decision power for more important things.
Yeah, so then you are not making decisions. It's decisions already made for you for every day. So less decisions. And so yeah, that's good. And I sometimes do like it's very personal thing, like picking out clothes for the day, right? And in the morning, and I pick out clothes, sometimes I cannot make decisions. I just can't find something that I want to wear that day, and I could be really picky. And then like I love all my clothes, but it's something to do with, I have too much with that feeling that I woke up and sometimes I can't find, lots of days I can't find, right? And I'm already tired, feeling decision fatigue already in the morning. I can't find it, right? and then it's just time goes by and I'm running out of time. So sometimes I pick clothes the night before, so decisions already made, right, for me. And especially at the beginning of the day, I'm struggling, right? But so if it's ready and I have easy start, and then it makes different. It's small difference, but it could be leading to a big difference of the day, right? So yeah, it's really just my day how it goes, but yeah, automate. I can see how helpful it is.
I would definitely use that for minor decisions, but for important ones, I think
Yeah.
it's always important to be open-minded.
Yeah. It's something that you do
and
every day.
re-examine your conclusions from time to time.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
So
not,
when new evidence comes forward, a new way of doing
yeah,
things.
it's not like
yeah.
I'm gonna always say yes to
Yeah.
this person. No,
Yeah.
not that kind of automate, but
Yeah.
whenever you can.
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Hmm.
Hmm.
I think open-mindedness is an important thing. So as long as we're being open-minded and challenging our own assumptions, then we're setting ourselves up to end up making good decisions as we go through life. If we're closed-minded, there's nothing more to decide. We got to figure it out, right? So it's like that could lead to a lot of conflict, right? And that's
Paul, this is something I wanted to say. It's related to staying curious, and I wanted to make that comment.
That's
A little
true.
while ago, like that's a big deal. That's a really, really big deal. It's kind of like what you mentioned about the compassion. It's not that easy. I think we can all strive to get there, but it requires a fairly high level of development to be able to remain in that open-minded state, even in our later years, because it's a big deal. The brain, for one, is very stingy of the release of acetylcholine, and acetylcholine is necessary in order for it to learn new things, right? So it's kind of like pressing the clutch on gears. It's a way to open up the brain in order for new information to come in, new perspectives to come in. And when people become very habitual and very based on a routine, that tends to get kind of rigid, and that rigidity can sometimes hurt us. So you're right. So what are things that we can do to actually exercise that part of our brain and try to remain open-minded? From neuroscience, I think one of the things that we can learn is that if we want to release acetylcholine, it's a good idea to put ourselves in new situations. And it's good to push ourselves into situations that get us out of our comfort zone, that feel a little bit scary, a little bit uncomfortable. That's when the growth starts to happen. And the more we lean into that, the more we're going to remain that elasticity in the brain, so exposing ourselves to different things, different perspectives, reading, eating different books, traveling, and having conversations with people that are outside of our ethnocentric group, so to speak, and really, even people that might normally freak us out, people that we normally would find very different than us. Well, let's sit down and talk to them. Let's hear them out, like you said, and open our mind and listen and try to have that compassionate understanding for where they're coming from, and see if perhaps there is an aspect of their way of perceiving reality that also lives within us, because I believe that we all share these things more so than we realize. So yeah, that open-mindedness is a really big part.
And speaking of talking to other people, when you're making a decision, calling a bunch of different people and telling them the situation and not telling them how you feel first, but just being open-minded to what they say. So, maybe have like 5-10 friends that they're completely different, and you bring them this same puzzle and they'll come at it from different angles that you would have never thought about too.
Yeah, absolutely. Challenge is that comfort zone you mentioned, right? That comfort zone can actually be a trap for us, or we're as creatures of habit. There's a constant tendency in our lives to shrink our world and to fall into certain routines that we repeat all the time. And one of those is just staying with the same thought patterns, whatever those are.
Because it's safe.
Yeah, because it's safe.
You survive through all those days doing the same thing, and subconscious saying, this is safe, so keep doing that, right? If you go out, we don't know what's going to happen there. And so it could be dangerous. It could be very, very dangerous. So come here, right?
The way that I perceive that, like the mechanism, as far as I perceive it, is that the universe in and of itself is a scary place to be in. And from the human perspective, because we don't have the capacity really to understand and grasp the magnitude of complexity of the universe, it appears to be very chaotic, and that's very scary, and it's very unpredictable. And so as humans, as a way to stay safe, we want that predictability. And that once we've made a decision, whatever that decision is, we want to hang out with people that think like that reinforce that decision, right? It's called confirmation bias. And this is a very important thing to understand, especially these days, because, we're increasingly living in a place where we're very, very, very divided. And we're put in these little silos, and we have groups of people arguing and fighting with other groups of people. So it's very important to catch ourselves when we are seeking that confirmation bias, and we're starting to go into an ethnocentric type of grouping, and breaking out of it can become pretty difficult. So it's good to catch ourselves there.
Yeah, that's such an important point you're bringing up. That confirmation bias, right? It's around us all the time now, and we're getting it from all the social media platforms. Every one of them is designed to feed into confirmation bias constantly. So when we go out and search for something, we express an interest in something on the internet, the big tech is listening, and they're saying, oh, you're interested in this kind of stuff? We'll send you more of that kind of thing, right? You like this kind of music? We're going to give you that music. We're going to keep recommending this, maybe a little different artist, but just pretty much in the same category, right? So it's always reinforcing that that way of looking at things. It takes energy for us to get outside of that comfort zone and to break it down, to weaken that comfort zone. And just like you said, exactly, doing things differently, right? Getting out of our routines is so important.
Yeah, like
You're-
create habit, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul, and that's a really good thing to be aware of too. Is social media and the algorithms that run all these things. I mean, they really stem from a marketing perspective, and I mean that's the way they were used originally, is to feed information and products and services that you might be interested in hopes that you would end up buying them. But these days, they're really the people that run these corporations are really leveraging these algorithms to also control narratives and control the way that groups of people perceive reality. Yeah. And it's a pretty serious thing. It can be a very serious thing. And actually having the strength, the mental capacity, the emotional fortitude to put ourselves in places that are uncomfortable to us or unknown to us can take, it can take a lot, because we start to run into cognitive dissonance, right? Where, you know, we're exposed to ideas that are so different than what we have already accepted to be truth, that we are not open to it. We don't know how to like process that information. So what can we do as individuals to make sure that we're always remaining open to new perspectives?
I also wanted to say, to differentiate automate from the new experiences, because they sound contradictory, but automation is actually just like, let's say you just plan on wearing the same thing every day, or you just have your food ordered and it's the same food, you eat the same meals. So those are just like the micro decisions that are just pre-planned. But your life experiences, then you can spend a little bit more time planning those new experiences.
Yeah, the automation and stuff is like, you know, Tim Ferriss kind of thing. It's like, you know, if you got a process that works for you, that helps your business run a little more efficiently, go for it, right? But when it comes to decision making, right,
It's a big decision.
you've got to embrace the uncertainty. You've got to challenge your assumptions. You got to find a new way. You've got to think, right? You've got to really think and step back and you know, seeing it from your perspective, right? You and I, we've come from very different perspectives. I'm very logical in my life experience, and you're not, right? Well, I mean, you can be very logical. I just mean the way you live is in your intuition. That's your home base, right? And us being able to connect on things, there's a bridge that we have to build on things, because you try to explain it and I'm just like, oh, huh, right?
If
not logical.
He's looking for logical reasoning. Like if I'm like my heart is telling me to do this, and I'm getting pulled so hard, I want to do it, and he comes like how does that work? Think, how does it even how is it even possible?
The math doesn't even work.
Math, like you have this and you still it's already enough for you, and you're trying to do this. How does it work, right? I'm saying it's gonna work. I know it's gonna work, but it doesn't.
And here, like that, we ran this decision like that with our YouTube channel, right? Right. You wanted to do more stuff, and I'm like, how do we have time for that, right? But it actually works. It works. So me not being a slave to logic and just being open to the idea of, okay, let's embrace it from the heart perspective, and hey, it works. So you discover something new, right?
And curious, you can I was gonna say something about curious, like not just when something happens, right? Daily basis, when you are making decisions, you want to be curious about those numbers you see from everywhere, right? When you make, they're saying this, so I'm gonna follow them. And then they're saying this, so I'm gonna go the other way, right? But they're saying this, is that information is that applies to you, right?
And statistics, right? You know, Mark Twain said that there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics.
So
right?
You can use same numbers, but then you can say, I don't know, and then you can calculate different way, right? You're just looking at this one spot. Oh my God, look at this. This is crazy. If you look at the whole picture, that's normal, right? But so being curious, when you take somebody's information, don't just take it, but be curious and then examine you can examine yourself from your point of view, and if it benefits you, you can up it. This number or whatever applies to you. It might be number from 90 years old people, and doesn't apply to you at all, right? But if you're just listening, they don't say it's 90 years old, just right. And they say this is for everybody. They make it look like this is for everybody, right? But so you want to be curious. All the time is.
You can take logic is great. Use it wherever you can, but you can take it too far, because I mean, I'm a scientist, right? I've never stopped being a scientist. I don't work in institutions anymore, but I still use it in my life, right? But the thing is, there's always limits to science. That's what has to be understood when people are consuming the information coming from science, is that sure, you can prove something in the lab that it works this way, but it's only because you set up the question to be confined to these parameters. If you set up the experiment a little bit differently, you're asking a very different question, and you can get completely different results. So yeah, sure, you do a study and it shows this, right? Shows A, but if you just tweaked the study slightly, you'll see that it shows something completely the opposite, right? So you find that all the time. And so people say, well, this is what the science says, right? And they just go with that, right? Well, that's cool. Science is great, but there are limits to what science can do at any given time. And information from science can be misused, and it has been to disastrous results.
Absolutely, especially these days, and also not just from clinical studies, but statistics. You can take the same data sets and run them through different filters to support different.
It can be opposite, right?
Absolutely.
You can have entirely opposing views trying to make their point using the same data sets.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the problem that we're seeing right now, is you see so much stuff online, right, out there, and you see people citing sometimes the same information or sometimes different information, and it's all conflicting. So what is what, right? And it's this person versus that person. So yeah, that's why we're doing these videos, right? That's why it's a conversation that people, I think it's really important for us to have at this time in human history, I think, because I think we as a species are ready to move forward. We're ready to evolve. We're ready to think more for ourselves. We're ready to embrace our fellow man as a fellow man, as a fellow, right? Not as somebody, oh, he's not like me, right? So, and there's so much that we're ready to take on, but there's different forces at work in the world that want to, it's complex. It's
well,
complicated.
I guess they're.
Well, I think
So I will just add one more thing while they're.
Having a little problem here. Hope they
Not praying for something specific.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you guys are back? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what I started to do is I started to share one more thing that I feel is really, really helpful to make good decisions, but also to attract solutions to problems. And that is prayer. I think it's very underrated, but we won't be helped unless we ask for it. So I think something really important to do is to not be specific, to say, this is the problem, and I'm just praying, to the angels or to God or whoever you believe in to support me. And without being specific, the answer comes in so many different ways that you wouldn't even think it would come to you. So
in a
so
different way.
you're being open with your request. In other words, is that what you're saying? Instead of asking for you've determined exactly what should happen on your own, and you're asking for help from the universe, from God.
Yeah,
to
I want
make
a
that
car,
happen.
right?
Yeah.
I want Porsche,
Yeah.
right? I want Porsche, ask for more
Ask for,
abundance.
the best thing.
Then a Lamborghini.
Oh,
shows up. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't want this one. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's true. And it's connecting to yourself, connecting to your higher self, right? And then God. And it's like this greater power that we are what we're not focusing, not using, not I don't know, use is the word or not, but there's greater power, and we are in there, and then we're focusing on just this things right in front of us, and then just going around, and we were stuck, right? We just open ourselves up and connected to ourselves, connected to our higher self, and greater thing, and then we we can manifest, right? Right now, like Paul was saying, we are challenged to do that. We are challenged right now to use our intuition to connect to inner self, right? Ourself, higher self, the things that we've been doing, like material things and logically thinking, those are important, but it's getting got used up, and we are ready to go to the next step, and using more intuition, right? And things that we accomplished a lot as human being up to now. Now to go to the next step, we cannot do the same thing. We
can't do this. We can't use. Einstein said you you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created the problem. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah.
But yeah, so we have this big challenge because we can do it, right? And yeah, so we know how to do it. We forgotten. We just want to remember how to do it.
Yeah, I just want to touch on one thing. I'll just put the word up here, but we don't have time, I don't think, to go do it justice. Another thing for making good decisions is listening. And I don't mean obeying. I don't mean following what we're being told. I mean listening to others in an open-minded way. That involves these things down here, right? Staying curious, open-minded. So I think maybe we could do a whole episode just on listening, right? That
Yeah,
could be a future one.
you've been wanting to do
Yeah,
that
yeah.
from the start. We'll do it soon.
Yeah. One other thing, so this is connected to some of these other things too, is like compassion, is being non-judgmental. We kind of touched on this. So I'll just throw these things up here, and maybe we can do another episode or something. But anyway, yeah.
Non-judgmental toward others and toward yourself.
Yeah. And the listening. I mean, there's so much emphasis is being put on talking, and unfortunately, here we're just talking to the audience, right? And people are all trying to grab the bullhorn and the microphone and being the teacher, right? And being the one who's telling other people because we somehow supposedly know, right? How to do things. Well, if we listen first before we speak, then I think this is an important aspect of making good decisions. Because if we're just talking, then we're just going with a decision that we've made, not necessarily the best one for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
How can we make the best decision for everybody involved if we're not doing this first, right?
But this one, you're thinking deeper listening, right? Not just to listen what they say. Listening what they say and why they're saying it, right? Why they are making that decision and telling me that, right?
Mhm.
You gotta go deeper.
Yeah, is there
to-
something, is there something, something that I'm missing, that I'm not, that my comfort zone is preventing me from getting the idea of what you're trying to tell me right away, right? So if I listen deeply to what you're saying, I'm evaluating, am I missing something? Is that why I'm not, is that why I don't get what she's saying right away? Is there something that I am missing? And being open-minded about that, it means that I'm constantly learning from my environment, right? So if you're talking, and if I'm truly listening, then I'm being open-minded and curious about what you're saying, then that's the opportunity for me to learn. And that's where the real power is on the learning, not the teaching, right? That's another episode we could do. So yeah. But anyway, yeah. So anything you guys want to say to wrap up here?
I can't think of anything. I think, you know, when we're having trouble making our own decisions, sometimes it's helped to seek out somebody who can see a little bit more than us. And I think, you know, Alex and I are pretty intuitive. We can definitely tap into different frequencies and see a little bit of information. And I wanted to also say that Satomi with Sakaso and Paul, they are both intuitive as well. And they offer some guidance services to tap into stuff that you might not be able to tap into yet. So I wouldn't hesitate to reach out to them or to us and see what we can do to help you out to make decisions too.
Yeah, forget those one, everyone. Just come to
Yeah. Well, it's actually not one or the other. You probably should do it all. We need all the help we can get in this day and age.
Exactly. There's a whole big tool set to go through. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that was great. It's a big topic. We don't feel like we covered everything.
No.
But yeah, just even just a little bit. Hopefully, it's helping someone, right, to start to make healthier decision. Maybe starting today. That would be great.
Thank
Thank
you guys
very
so
much.
much. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening.